What if the biggest fight in UFC history, Conor vs. Khabib, didn't happen? No chaos, no rivalry. What impact would it have had? Honestly, this, by every metric in the game, was truly the largest fight in UFC history. No doubt. We're going to break this down. We're going to go into the shape of Conor's career, what would have happened to Khabib's career, and then also the biggest what ifs, and I think the most interesting thing to me. The one of the metrics we have to talk about for sure is the 2.4 million pay-per-view buys the card did. The reason for this is, look, you're not just reaching hardcore fans. The hardcore fans really don't pay your bills at that time, or neither did they, because that is a lot of casual fans. I had people that had never watched the UFC tuning into this card. Because remember, this is 2.4 people buying it, but you don't know how many people are at the households. Like, I had tons of friends over. So the eyes on this was insane. So you built another generational superstar in Khabib once he won that fight. It showcased to those people that, like, oh my gosh, this guy just beat Conor McGregor. And this is Conor McGregor coming off the Eddie Alvarez win at MSG, but then also the Floyd Mayweather loss. Yes, it was a loss, but also that was over 4 million pay-per-view buys as well, reportedly. So the eyes on this was insane, but without it, the UFC also takes a pretty big hit. You don't get that money. You don't get any of that exposure. So that's what we're also going to dive a little bit deeply into, but I want to touch on Conor McGregor's career specifically. For Conor, think about it. No dominant loss, okay? You don't feel any of those effects. You're still coming off that high of the Eddie Alvarez win in the MMA sphere, but then also you've got the money, you've got the name, you've got the exposure of the Floyd Mayweather fight, but now you don't have to go into a title fight with a absolute phenom, an undefeated phenom who is like counter your style. Like 100%, he fought his kryptonite. The thing is, without it though, you don't have that loss. You don't have anything shifting in the people's eyes, and you still have that invincibility. Yes, you had that Nate Diaz loss. That's okay because you had the rematch. You won the rematch. So now at this point, he could have had a different fight. I'm not going to say a layup fight would have been a good thing, but any other fight would have been amazing for him at that time. It didn't matter if he was fighting, because I think at that time, Tony Ferguson was on his high. Thing with Tony Ferguson, though, I think he would have matched up well with Conor, and I think that would have been a huge fight still, but then it also would have given Conor the chance to even more have that dominant performance, because I think even though Tony was undefeated at that time for that long period of stretch over 10 years, I think he would have struggled against Conor McGregor. And then going forward, you probably would have still had that Cowboy Cerrone fight. But then again, that was off that long layoff. So now we're thinking without the fight completely against Khabib out of the way, he could have been undefeated for a lot longer after that Nate Diaz fight, which would have been pushed him to some maybe greater success. But I also think it could have potentially pushed him more into the boxing realm had that Khabib loss not happened. We have to talk about this because Khabib's legacy already, I've seen in some of the fan discussion, is up in the air. I personally am on the note of when your career is 29-0, I'm happy with it. And then especially undefeated in the UFC with the names Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, Edson Barbosa at the time was a huge win. Like, he's got some really solid career dubs, but I also do understand people saying that they wish he stayed a little bit longer. But with the passing of his father, it was totally understandable. But again, if you don't have the Conor McGregor fight, you don't have your biggest win, okay? Without a doubt, it's a highlight in his career. I don't think he gains the amount of global recognition he did. He exploded in following. I think he's over 30 million followers on Instagram. The thing, without the Conor fight, I don't think you get that. And we have to also understand, 2 fights is the amount he had after the McGregor fight. And then he retired. That's it. So yes, it did cement his legacy for sure. At lightweight, it did. Even as an all-time UFC great. He's definitely not my pound-for-pound GOAT. That will be a topic for a different video. But without this win, I don't think his legacy is as cemented. And he's not as popular. I have to admit that. I might get some hate for that. But I think that is just the truth. And I have to do this justice. This video wouldn't be proper without mentioning this. The biggest what if. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony El Kakui Ferguson. This fight is cursed. We know that. It was canceled 5 times between 2015 and 2020. Without the McGregor fight, do we have this lineup? I think it would have been pushing it, like for the 6th time. But in my realm, I want to think and hope that it happened. And if it did, we would have seen Tony on that long fight winning streak finally up against Khabib with his skills at the time. I know he went on his losing streak. He had his downfall. The thing is, though, at the time, why we wanted this fight so bad is because Tony matched up excellent with Khabib. He had a crazy pace. No one could keep up with it. Khabib also had a solid pace. His ground game was malicious. His elbows, it didn't matter if someone took him to the ground. They couldn't control him. He could scramble. He was scrappy on the feet. Nasty strikes, long limbs, the elbows, the knees. He was awesome. He seriously was. I think we got robbed of this fight. And I think in our lifetime, we will regret this, but in hopefully a different lifetime, this fight did happen. And if you want my prediction, I still would have had to side with Khabib. And no, I'm not just taking into account the long losing streak, but I can honestly admit this. I think Tony would have been his toughest fight, hands down. It doesn't even matter to today's fighters. I know people are going to look at Arman Tsarukyan or guys like Ilia Topuria. I still think Khabib would have went through them. But again, I'll discuss that later. I want to do that for a different video. But man, without Conor versus Khabib, the UFC landscape changed. It would have changed forever. Like, you wouldn't have the recognition we have now. And again, let me know if you agree with that. Put in the comment section below what you think would have happened. And was I